Hi, welcome to the FCS Skill Day Housing Workshop. Today we're going to be making a bulletin board. The first thing we want to do is gather our supplies together. This is also really important if you're going to be competing in the FCS Skillathon, so you want to make sure that you know the different tools that you're working with. So for today's project, we are using a ceiling tile. We'll give you some other ideas at the end of different things. If you don't have any particular supplies, you can be creative and try to use some things you may have around the house. But for today's purpose, we're going to do a ceiling tile, and this ceiling tile is a 24-inch by a 24-inch. So you could make that a different size if you wanted to. You would just have to adjust everything accordingly. So also we want some fabric to cover. You might think about coordinating fabric if it's going somewhere in your house in particular. So that can be important. And then our batting that we're going to look at. Now this is a cotton batting, but we want to probably recommend if you have poly batting accessible, it's a little bit thinner and it's easier to puncture a hole through. So if you're going to be putting the D-rings on there or any type of hole in there, you're going to want to use a thinner batting as possible. Now you can use the cotton and make an X where the spots are to pre-do that, so you don't have to struggle to get the hole through there, but we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Your scissors are here. We've got our scissors, and sharp scissors are really important if you can find them for this particular project. You could cut the little X if you can on there, but you want your edges to be really nice. So if you do have a sharp, like we say, sharp scissors or your shears for material, if you have something nice, it's going to create a lot smoother edge, and that is important whenever we're talking about the fair. If you're entering something in the fair, I do think the judges look at that and how well your smooth lines are on your material. If you've cut them nice and straight, that can have a lot of effect on how well you do. So it could take something from a red ribbon quality and actually make it a blue ribbon quality if you're doing the best that you can on a project. So, and then we also have our owl here, or I'm sorry, it's an awl, and it is it's a piece of equipment to puncture holes into different materials. So, but anyway, so that's what this is used for, and we're going to be using it today to make these holes that we have on the ceiling tile. So, and then we're going to make them a little bit larger by using this screwdriver, and you can also use an ice pick. I do want to say that if you have that to get your hole started, so that could be a better option for you if you had an ice pick. So, but again, these tools, some of these can be sharp, so you may want to get you an adult to help with some of these if it's if you're going to be using those tools that are a little bit sharper. And then we're also going to use thumbtacks today. They look a lot nicer when we're doing material it's kind of an upholstery a little bit, where you make the material lay a lot smoother with your finishes, and so we're using thumbtacks today. So your push pins would stick out and they wouldn't lay nice and smooth on the back, and so that's why we're using thumbtacks today. So okay, these are our D-rings that we're going to be using to hang the bulletin board. So they allow us to get it through the board, that thickness, and then it just provides a nice smooth flat hook or ring. It's a D-ring for the back that we can hang that with. So that's why we've chosen that today. If you can't get a hold of D-rings or aren't sure where you could find them at, you could use some. They have different hangers for the backs. One of the projects we look at, they just put holes and then tied ribbon. So but we do recommend these if you have access to them, because they can make your project look a lot more finished. Again, we're talking about quality for the county fair, and so think about that as you do these. Okay, some more supplies that we're looking at here are our tape measure, and then we have a Sharpie here to help us mark on our board where we're going to need to put those holes. So we also recommending on the board here, and we'll see it here in a minute, but marking the direction. So if you put an arrow up on it so you know where the top of your board is. That can be really beneficial whenever you're, you cover it up and you're trying to find the holes and that sort of thing. You have that arrow and you know where that's at. So anyway, we want to determine where we want the hangers to be, and this could be, maybe where you're going to put it on the wall. That might determine where you're going to put it. So take that into consideration. Then we're going to measure, from the edges here, and we want to make sure that we get that measured the same on both sides because we want it to be as straight as can be whenever we're hanging that. So we're going to lay out our ceiling tile here, and you can see here that we've got these they're actually already the hole has already been made on the ceiling tile, and then again you could put on the back of this board an arrow so you know which direction is up. So once you get the material over that, it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of figure out where your holes are, and if you've got that arrow in the middle, it will make that a lot easier. Okay, so once we get, this is the batting, so once we get this on there, you're going to want to leave a little bit of an edge, and this is going to help it lay a lot smoother when you take that material and wrap it around the board. It's just going to finish it off a lot smoother and nicer, but it does need to have a little bit of an overhang. When we're looking at the edges here, we want to give a 4 to 5 inches extra when we're using our material, our decorative material that we're going to put over the front. So it does need to have here, it's a 4 to 5 inches of fabric. And again, we talked about having a nice straight edge. And so if you are using, your scissors, you're using maybe a straight line to cut that with, it makes it look a lot smoother on the back. Whereas if you, wrap it over and then try to cut it, it may look a little more crooked. So if you could pre-cut that before you get it on there, it's going to just be that little extra finishing touch that can make your project stand out above someone else's. But again, so we'll lay that fabric down. We're going to center the batting on top of the fabric and then add the board centered with the rough sides down. And then we're going to pull that firmly. If you start in the middle and then work your way out, and then when we get to the corners here, we're going to try to have a real straight line from each side. So this is the point of our board, and so you're going to want to tuck this material in and get your thumbtack right here and do that on both sides. And then this is the extra material that we have that we're going to lay flat. So as we see here, so underneath there we would have had a tack here and here, and then we fold that material down to make a really nice smooth corner. So make sure you get those as flat and smooth as you can, because when we go to hang these on the wall, the more bulky the material here, it's not going to lay quite as flat as we would like. And this is our D-ring. So once we get that on there, and notice how we had to go through both layers of material here. So you're gonna have to find this spot where you had previously marked that. So it's really critical to be able to find those. So again, we said we put that arrow on the back so we can kind of figure out which corners we need to make sure that we are needing to find that spot at. So anyway, and again, you're gonna have to poke through all those layers. So we want, if you can, if you have access to some of those tools that we talked about, the sharper things, the ice pick or whatever, but if you need adults to help with that, we just don't want anyone. Be safe as you can. Okay, so that's it. Once you get the D-rings on there, you're complete. We have some different ideas on here of things you can do that we think would be fun. So if you don't have access to material, you could just paint your ceiling tile here. This was a project that I think some 4-Hers had done that we had, and they decorated this and put some ribbon in the top. And then you can do different, we added some ribbon to these particular boards, and we just used tacks to secure those. If you didn't have the thumbtacks, you could use a staple gun to get that in there, or you could, if you had to, you could use hot glue probably. You're going to want to make sure you're really careful and neat with that, because I do feel like hot glue tends to get a little bit messy and it doesn't look as nice on the back there. So Anyway, so we hope that you've gotten some ideas from this. You've learned some tools that we've got. And if you have any questions, feel free to call our office. And we know you guys are creative, so make this a project that reflects you. And we will see you later. Bye.